In the world of adoption and foster care, so much of our experience is shaped by what others expect us and tell us to feel and believe. From the moment we enter these systems, emotions and loyalties can become prescribed, as if there's a script we're supposed to follow. That is the uncomfortable reality that comes with child removal and placement, either for adoption or foster care. The upheaval alone is enough to make anyone question where they belong, or how they're supposed to feel about the people around them. We're assigned new parents, labeled as our mother and father. And sometimes, for some of us, they truly become just that. Their love and presence is real, and the bond grows naturally. But for many others, those titles feel assigned, demanded, and most definitely not earned. The connection doesn't always come so easily, and we can find ourselves caught between what we are told these relationships should mean and what they actually do mean to us. But what happens when one of the adoptive parents passes away? What are we allowed to feel? What are we permitted to say? These moments of loss create very complicated emotions, especially when there is neglect, abuse, and harm. Layers of grief can be tangled with confusion, relief, guilt, or even indifference. The world around us only recognizes the version of the story that fits their expectations, not the complex feelings living inside of us. So, how do we resolve the conflict between what we are told we should feel and what we truly feel? How do we find our own sense of peace, of closure, when society only wants to hear one point of view? The truth is, there are no simple answers. Each of us has a right to our feelings, and the world will not agree with them. The journey toward healing and understanding ourselves is deeply personal, and it doesn't have to fit anyone else's narrative but our own.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening all, it's Bear here. And in today's video, this is part 2 in the adoption series, following on from the last video, and my own expression of what I'm feeling as one of my adopted parents is in the last stages of palliative care, inaudible, on morphine, passing away. And what that means for those of us that are in the reality of adoption and foster care, long-term foster care placements, when it doesn't work to build a family. And how we struggle with how to make sense of and how to process through mourning the loss of somebody that was assigned, that we were assigned to, that didn't earn that role, didn't put their hand forward and shared our childhood growing up to where it became that. We were given, we were placed there. And they had an expectation around that created the circumstances for this to unfold the way that it is. And as I finished off with in the last video, we don't need permission to justify how and why we feel. But we also need to bridge a way of explaining it and expressing it in a way that is supportive and not destructive to ourselves, the life we have created. I've watched personally several adoptees that I personally know through these times destroy the life they have created. Because there is no structure, there is no outlet, and everything is in opposition to what they're actually feeling. And the degree of emotion that is tapped into the fog, the core jar of emotion that came from our removal, because as far as our nervous system, we are back at that level of vulnerability, overloads the ability to make sense of it. I've also watched adoptees isolate themselves to a degree that, again, it destroys the life they've created, because they go, well, they're not my parents, I don't really give a crap, and they emotionally shut down. They repress automatically to survive, and they cram that jar of trauma emotions buried deep within their soul until it explodes. I've tried to do that in my past, it doesn't work. I've also tried opening up and molding myself to fit into different groups, that doesn't work. But over the last decade or so, I've also learned that being able to articulate and learning how to bridge through communication what I'm actually going through or what I'm actually feeling with a core group of people does support. But I had to grow that ecology. Because there are people that want to understand, and they genuinely do, but if you haven't lived this, you don't understand the nuances. And we have to amend the assumptions that are made. We also feel what other people feel around us. And we know that they're emotionally not getting what we're expressing. And again, that is a reminder of our isolation. There are so many cards at play here that makes this a unique experience for a demographic. Like I said in the title, when you're assigned a parent that's not biologically yours, you are separated from the family that will get this. When there are even other adoption siblings or other foster care or long placement siblings, they're still not biologically part of this. They're going through their own version of this, and everything is competing. And what we need to process this is emotional alignment with at least one or two others to have the security for our nervous system to go through the steps of grief and mourning for what it is we're grieving and mourning. As I said, I'm not mourning her passing, but I'm mourning that our entire life together didn't have to be the way that it is. It didn't have to unfold this way. And all the ways it impacted negatively my life was unnecessary. All of it was a lie. All of it was from a trauma response. And the suffering that this individual created in the people around her in defense of her own survival response from her own childhood, and how that played out generationally, is all part of this. When we don't resolve trauma, we pass the implications of that on to those around us. When we don't amend or understand our response to trauma, we pass that on to those around us. That's generational trauma. When the implications, the effects, and the aftermath of that and how that ripples out is the whole basis of generational trauma. In the world that is adoption and the world that is long-term foster care placement, we have multiple layers of this, not from one family source, but from the family source we were taken from the society that defends and justifies the reasons why we were taken from it, and also from the family that raises us. And we all have to make sense of this. And it's in these moments when we're facing our own mortality or another person's mortality, where the relationship comes to this point of assessment, as in a person passing, is where this stuff comes to where it's unavoidably looked at, where it's smashed in our face to process and deal with. And how we deal with this is how our future will unfold. I'm not sure when her final stages of passing. We've had several phone calls. It's in the coming days. It's on me to create the structure for the funeral. It's on me to create and fix up all these pieces, because I'm the one that does that. I'm the Harry Potter beneath the stairs. All I do is fix. That's my role in the family that raised me. And when adoptees and those in long-term care go for that, we fall back into that role, because that is the only way we can participate in the family that raised us. The role where we slotted into. And that again is at the expense of the emotions we feel around this, the questions we want answers to, the whys that we have. Respect yourself in these times. Respect yourselves enough not to react, but to take affirmative action that supports your journey. Be mindful of the resources you're going to need when these moments arise, because they will for all of us. But also be mindful that there are a lot of people that will throw a lot of well-intentioned support But be mindful that their intentions might not gel with what is going on with you, and that is okay. Accept the support on the value that it is given. But it is not a negative reflection that it doesn't, they don't understand what is actually going on for you. For the last week for me, that's been a huge one, because there are a few people that have asked on my well-being, and they don't have a clue of what I'm trying to process. But I'm grateful that they asked. As in far as my, adoption family, they have never asked into my well-being. I have never been asked, are you okay? That has never happened. That was a thing, a memory that hit yesterday, when for the umpteenth time I asked my adopted father, how are you doing with this? Are you okay with this? And he's right above my head in the living room upstairs, because I look after him. And he has never asked about my emotional well-being. That is a story so many of us have in the world that is adoption. We exist in a role we are not part of. And that's what I want, the realness of this in these two videos. I'm not speaking from a textbook. I'm speaking from the life that I have lived, the life that I have shared with others, the adoptees that I know, and all that I read on the forums that I'm a part of. The way adoptees express themselves, the way those who've gone through, foster care express themselves, and my understandings of what is behind that and what has created that. The next few videos, I don't know where they're going to go on this channel on the adoption side, because as I said, I'm going through this process, and I'm not going to do anything that's at the expense of me. But I just wanted you guys to have a little insight as to my own personal journey at this time, and what I'm doing in my best to walk my talk to get through it. As always, I love you guys' support for the channel, and please be mindful, please be respectful, stay safe, and I will see you in up and coming videos. Hope.